Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to IronSquid right here on this wonderful show that we've got coming to you live on Sunday, Bloody Sunday, and this really is a super Sunday because we've got 4 best of 3s coming up for you. My name is Total Biscuit.
And I'm D Apollo.
And this is going to be absolutely fantastic. What a selection of players we've got for you today.
Yeah, we've really ramped up the amount of games we're going to be doing. I mean, 4. It's quite a lot of StarCraft 2 games coming up, considering they're all best of 3s. Could be quite a while. So, sit down, set yourself up, food, drinks, because it could be a long one. Especially with the quality of games coming up. Could see a lot of equal amount of games coming here, going the full distance as well, to be honest. I mean, we are now, of course, into the second day of this group, but we did see a really interesting day 1, which started to set us up for this group. But today now, we're actually getting quite deep into it. This group obviously being spread across 3 days, so by the end of today, we're actually going to have a very good understanding of who could potentially go through and who is going home.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's something that you need to consider going through this group stage, and we can just give you the rundown right now and tell you exactly how the groups stand at the moment going into this 4-series show, which will, without question, define the lineup. And at the moment, we've got MMA at the top of the group in a very solid 2 Series 1 and no series lost. He's dropped 1 map. He dropped it against Life, and that was that. And then you've got Stephano. Stephano took his series 2-0, pretty much an effortless sweep against Mana. And then at the bottom of the group, you've got 3 players that have all lost their first game. We've got Life, who at least managed to take a map from MMA, and then you've got Jjakji and Mana, who are both 0 games won and 1 series lost with 0-2 map score. Not a good start for those guys, honestly. Admittedly, they did have a pretty tough start with Mana going up against his arch nemesis, the guy that continually destroys him, Stephano, and then, of course, Jjakji going up against the TBT Titan from Slayers, MMA.
And those 3 guys at the bottom here today will be playing twice. So they actually do have the opportunity to redeem themselves and start to push up to the top. We will be, of course, having Stephano versus Live game number 1. An interesting Zerg versus Zerg, of course.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm really interested to see, Jjakji, how he's going to play here, because 0-1 is, of course, not a good start, but as you said, did play against MMA, which is always going to be difficult. MMA, if not one of the best player in the world. So, difficult start, but he could definitely be showing some fantastic games here today and could actually turn it around and be 2-1.
Yeah. I mean, his final game of today, which will be also our final game of the day, is going to be up against Mana, but that's not going to be any walkover because Mana's been known for being one of the finest Protoss in Europe and having one of the best PvT in the Foreigner scene. So that concerns me a little bit for Jjakji. That's not going to be an easy win. And then Life, we saw Life take a map from MMA. So his ZvZ is also pretty strong. Jjakji's not going to have an easy ride through this group now, having dropped his first game. And many people said that TBT was going to be the matchup that he had a chance to really get a head start in the group with, and MMA wrecked him. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at Mana, and what you said there was actually a really good point, is that he's playing two games today, and both of them against Terran, and that's his best matchup. So he actually could also set himself up well, and of course, being alongside MC Protoss player within this tournament, whether he'll go through, but he's playing against top-end Korean Terrans now, so of course he's the best in Europe against the Terrans here. But it's a different level. They're just on a different level over there. So it's going to be interesting to see how that happens and kind of evolves here today. Will Mana be able to play on a Code S level? Of course, these guys Code S level here.
Yes, that's why this group is just so damn fantastic. You've got Code S guys, you've got Code A, and you've got people like Stephano, who many people say is Code S caliber anyway, because he is beating Code S players on a fairly regular basis. And then you've got Mana, who people have also said, if this guy actually competed hard in Korea, then he would probably end up in at least Code A. So this is a really strong group, a very competitive group, and it could go any way, really. But what we have seen is that MMA's already got a flying start and is looking at a really good position to just cruise through this group.
Yeah, he can actually close up a first and second place today and advance through. If he manages to beat Mana, which will be the second game of today, and if he does that, which, you know, a lot of people are going to be saying that he's the favorite to do so, then that's great for him. He can relax in the last game. As first, second place, seeding is going to matter, but it's the more difficult stage is just getting through.
Getting through in the first
which
place.
I'm sure he's actually going to be very happy with that going up, of course, with the other Terran players and MC and Symbol.
Yeah, it's certainly good news for MMA fans if he manages to pull off this win against Mana here, because he's pretty much assured a spot through. And in a 2 go through out of 5 group scenario, that's tough. It's rough, and we've seen players like MVP fail in that respect. They are out of the tournament, boxers out of the tournament, if you can even believe that. MVP is as well, and it would be great to see MMA actually advance through here, because of the 4 superstars that really ended up in this tournament, the last 4 announcements, 2 out of those 4 superstars are gone already.
Yeah, and you know, map scores are going to be so important today to actually emphasize onto that, because 2 groups now, we've completed Group A and Group B, and we've had 2 3-way ties in both of the groups where it's come down to individual map score. And it's not just like map score, it's one single map is the difference between second place and fourth place.
Yes.
So today, whoever wins, they want to be going in 2-0. They want to be coming out without dropping a map. And the players that do lose, even if they lose, they will try to salvage a single map, as that really has shown to be the complete difference between, like I said, second and fourth place. And at a tournament and a group of this kind of skill, this could go anyway. That's the most interesting and fantastic thing to watch here.
Yeah, and the funny thing about this is that this is actually shaping up to be very much like Group B, because we saw MVP do the same thing as MMA, but drop that one map. And that map actually did make the difference in the long run. He ended up dropping it to a Zerg player as well. He dropped it to Symbol, and MMA's dropped a map to Life as well. It would be crazy if we saw the same kind of thing happen here.
It would be so crazy, man. And because we are actually seeing 4 games today compared to the standard 2 to 3, then we could actually be like, all right, well, MMA's going through, or this guy's going out, and it's going to really shape up for our next show. And a lot of people here are here for Mana, of course, the foreigner fighting here, but likewise there's also a bunch of GSL viewers, a bunch of MMA fans, Jjakji fans, and of course you can't forget Live. Even though he's probably the underdog in the entire group, there may be some Zerg player fans that follow Live, followed his run into Code A and dropped him back out, unfortunately, but still, there's a lot of people cheering for a variety of outcomes here today.
Yeah, and we saw what happened with the Zerg underdog in Group B. Symbol managed to make his way through against all odds there, and in a very similar scenario to Life. So we will find out. You know, by the end of today, we will know much more about this group, and we may even see one player go out. And of course, with MMA, we could potentially see him pretty much guaranteed to go through.
Yes, we could. And we're going to have to find out if he can secure that victory here today. Going to be a very important game for him, considering, like we said, who he's up against, which is Mana.
That's very true. Now, if you missed the last show, which set the scene for today's in Group C, then fear not, we have a video just for you, and we can show you what happened previously on IronSquid. There you go, folks. That is what you missed. Silly, silly people if you did miss them. There's some great games, absolutely fantastic displays in the first day of Group C. You can check the VODs out over on IronSquid.tv. I would highly recommend that you do so. Now, our first game for this 4 best-of-3 super show, it's going to be Stephano versus Life in a pretty tense ZvZ.
Yeah, this can really go either way. Zerg versus Zerg, very cutthroat matchup, a lot of aggression. Will be coming out for sure, especially depending on which maps we do go into. But this is now, of course, we said about, setting positions up, as we talked about MMA setting his position up to advance through. This is actually going to be a very nice win if Stephano manages to get it through. Being 2-0 like MMA is now, can just be like, all right, there's only one game I have to win, and that's it. I don't really care about that last one, of course, because that will depend on seeding. So going to be a very important win for Stephano, of course, if he wants to set himself up. But on the other side of things, Live here, if he loses this, he is going to be down in that 0-2 position where things are just so incredibly difficult, and he can only hope for a 2-2 at the end of the day, and then he has to hope on map score, as we've seen on Group A and Group B.
You don't want to hinge your hopes on that, I can guarantee. At least he managed to take him out from MMA, so that does start things, and one might argue that MMA was going to be his toughest matchup in this group. But the ZvZ is vitally important, and it can go either way, as you mentioned, because of just the fact that one mistake costs you a map in a ZvZ series. Stephano is going to have a nice time, I think, in this group if he takes it, because he's already taken what many would have considered pretty much his free win from Mana. If he then takes his win here from Life, he's got 2 Terran to beat, and he's only really got to beat one of them. As long as he beats either Jjakji or MMA, he's beaten MMA in the past, I might add, as well. So that's not impossible, and his form is great. Then he'll be going through. So, must win really for either of these players, as I suppose any series is, but it does define the rest of their run quite heavily. If Stephano loses this one, then he may have to go and beat both Jjakji and MMA. That would be a pretty stressful prospect.
Yeah, absolutely. And if he doesn't beat both of them, then he could, again, be on that cutting edge where
map score.
Whether he's lost 2-0 against those Terran players, he could actually be out himself. And not only being a foreign representative here today, he is also a French representative, just like Todd was. Being a French tournament, I'm sure that every single viewer from France here today, maybe not watching this stream, but watching the other stream, are going to obviously, it would be an amazing experience for them to have a French representative in the grand finals as they go through. But of course, even if he does win the group, it doesn't mean he's in the grand finals, but pushes towards that end goal.
Yeah, well, many people have already said that Stephano might be the only foreigner that advances through the round of 8, and at the moment that is looking to be very true. Mana having already dropped a game, well, that makes things very, very difficult for him. And then, of course, you look at the last group in Group D, the 2 foreigners. You've got Inertio, who is a really great player, but is inconsistent sometimes, especially in tournaments of this caliber, and Hazelobs, who can pull those kind of wins off, but once again isn't doing so regularly.
Yeah, and not to hover over that group too much, but the 3 other Koreans in Group D, the Codes champions, basically.
Monsters.
I mean, even though Alive hasn't really won it, he basically could have. He's a fantastic player, of course. And Lenok and ST, very difficult group. So Foreigner hopes, if anybody's going to do it, it has to be Stephano in this group, I feel.
Yes, it does. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to kick off our first best of 3 right here on IronSquid. It's Stephano versus Life. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cloud Kingdom, and this Zerg versus Zerg between Millennium Stephano. He is in the pink trunks to the southwest, versus his opponent, it is Zenix Life in the orange trunks to the northeast.
And Cloud Kingdom is actually a very nice map for you to go hatchery first on here. It's a very defensive area on the natural, so you can get away with a spine crawler, maybe even start walling with an evolution chamber. And of course, the ramp you can always block with a single queen here. So it usually does say, alright, beginning of the game is usually going to be quite defensive, macro focus, and then it will start to explode later on. But as I say that, it looks like Life here is playing to the map, but playing the other way to it. Is like, alright, well, if this map is very defensive, people usually go hatch first. I'm going to go 9 pool here and try to catch Stephano off guard. But as you can see in the center, Total Biscuit, Stephano's drone scouting.
Smart guy. You can't make any assumptions against Korean Zergs, especially not in this particular matchup. So scouting this, absolutely perfect start for Stephano. A 9 pool is a very curious choice, honestly. You hear 6 pool, 7 pool, and of course you hear 10 pool quite a lot. 9 pool, what is the exact justification around that timing?
Well, he's going to be able to build 6 links straight off the bat as soon as this overload finishes, and then still able to just fall back on a queen and drone up there. So his goal is not really to kill Stephano, but to bring the drone count a little bit lower. He cannot keep it equal here. It has to actually be lower than himself, because he's actually not going to get gas anytime soon here.
Yeah.
So that's what his goal is here. Stephano sees it, and for the drone scout, I feel that Stephano was like, all right, well, this is a hatch first map. I'm probably just going to go hatch first myself. Drone scout's going to go out, deny his hatch first, then I'll take an advantage. But then the flip side is, well, if I see anything early, then I can just throw down my spawning pool myself.
Exactly. The Lings, at least some of them, are out, and they're actually not going to arrive. There we go. There's the 6 Lings there. There's 2 just lagging behind slightly, and there's actually 2 more to follow that up. So he really does want to apply a little bit of pressure there, but he is also building a drone, an extractor, and a queen. So this is kind of the end of his aggression here. Will he be able to do any damage? Well, he's over halfway across the map here. Cloud Kingdom is not the biggest map in the world, but it still does take a little bit of time to jog over, and Stephano currently only building a queen and 4 Lings to deal with there we go, there's the 6 Lings, and by the time he's actually reached the line, those Lings should be out.
And Stephano has a 4 drone lead here, so he can actually afford to lose a couple.
Yeah, and if he actually micros properly, he shouldn't have any issues whatsoever. Lings are now out, and, well, it's going to be Stephano's micro versus Life here. Oh, he's managed to even get some drones in there in the process. Some really great micro coming out from both sides at the moment. Stephano's, though, is far superior, and oh my lord, did he even lose a single drone there?
He lost 2, but that's actually fine because he's still at a... Well, they're actually a little bit equal here. But the thing is, though, that the speed is now being researched. There's no speed. There's actually nothing been... Or only just now started, sorry, for Life. So there's a nice little timing window there where Stephano can abuse that. But overall, that wasn't too bad there for Life. He did get a couple of drone kills, but at the same time now, because of the speed difference, Stephano has map control. He can expand. He can put pressure on to Live. And this is actually pretty good for Stephano.
Yeah, things looking nice for both sides, really, at the moment. As you said, it wasn't too bad for either side. No doubt Life would have liked a couple of extra drone kills there, because that would have put Stephano behind, but that isn't happening at the moment. So this timing window is not exactly huge for Stephano here. He's going to have his speed, but then again, Life will have it maybe about 20 seconds or so afterwards. It would be unfortunate if that queen was actually get caught out there. Stephano decides not to go for it, though.
Yeah, he's not going to really poke up there. And if he does, then there is backup Lings in the main base, so Stephano has to be so careful here. He's going to lose a really bad trade.
Yeah, that didn't really work out so well, unfortunately. He loses 3 Lings, doesn't really accomplish anything. Maybe forces more out from Life, actually. Perhaps that was the point in that. But he's also building Lings, too, and he's putting down a Baneling nest. Wow, Life is actually pumping it here. He is adding on 14 more, so he's looking for some pretty hefty aggression here. Doesn't have a Baneling nest, though.
No, he doesn't. This is interesting, actually. I mean, Live's of course going to go for this now, but Stephano has 2 queens blocking the ramp. He has a spine crawler coming up now and is producing Lings. Stephano does have a single drone lead, which is going to, of course, make his income just that little bit better. But as long as Stephano just doesn't lose to this, which he shouldn't, he's actually looking in good because the first hatchery's only just now started for Live.
Yeah, he's got to be careful there, and wow, what a massive surround coming in here. Spinecrawler starting to add to the fight. 1 queen taken out here by Life, so not a bad little start here. Doesn't lose a lot either, and is now completely surrounding that hatchery. Stephano needs to get in there and prevent that from going down. It would be disastrous if it were, but now 2 Banelings going up, and Life's kind of on borrowed time here. He's like, oh, well, what can I do? Can I get in here and actually kill this hatchery before the Banelings go off? And the simple answer, of course, to that would be no. Stephano will not let that happen. Those 2 defensive Banelings should shut that aggression down entirely, and they have.
Yeah, and while that was going on, while the Banelings were morphing, Stephano was droning. He knew he was going to defend that, so very confident play there by Stephano. And now Live also knows that he can't really get in there. Well, actually, he can now because Stephano caught a little bit out of position, but Live does decide to turn around.
Yeah, he's not too concerned about that at all. He can easily just turn around and get back in there. And, of course, Life doesn't want to dedicate to this because 1 Baneling splash just wipes that out. And, wow, Stephano actually going across the map with those Banelings. He's actually looking for an interception here. The thing is, he has been spotted, and Life is deliberately now moving away from that single Lone Ranger Baneling. And I'm not entirely convinced by this little move.
Well, Stephano's now morphing 4 new Banelings in the center as well here. I mean, he could just surge himself at the hatchery of Live and try to force drone kills, but that's going to be interesting because I'm not sure that's going to work too well. Even if he doesn't get drone kills, of course, though, he's going to force drones to be pulled off, and there aren't even any drones there, so Stephano taking a bit of a gamble with this maneuver.
Yeah, and what he needs to do as well is to protect those Banelings. He doesn't want them to be detonated there by single target fire on Lings, and of course Spinecrawler's up there, defensive Banelings coming up, and he splashes straight into that, and the trade wasn't exactly ideal there from Stephano. He throws away 3 Banelings, doesn't really gain a huge amount. There's nothing, as you said, on the drone line. Stephano continuing to attack, though, wants to try and get in there and do some good damage. Baneling splash goes off. Another Baneling is about to pop out for Life. Is cancelled there. Surround comes in from Stephano. Good transfuse by Life. 1 Queen goes down. 2nd Queen going down. What a massive swarm right here by Stephano, who seems to have gotten the upper hand.
Yeah, and 20 Lings are about to pop, though, so it looks like he will be able to clean this up eventually, but 2 Banelings are morphing, so Stephano... Oh, man, this is looking so good for Stephano now.
It really, really is, and 1 Baneling's about to pop here, and it might just go immediately into that. There's the splash. 1 goes down, and he even manages to defend that Baneling. So good micro right here by Stephano, and there's the GG! Whoa, 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 what a high-paced game right here from Stephano. An excellent example of ZvZ.
Yeah, and he's currently behind this, 33 drones, still making 5, so very shortly going to be at 38 compared to a miserable 24. Lack of queens as well from Live, so completely outplayed there. Big gamble from Live at the start of this game to go for that 9 pull, which Stephano scouted, dealt with amazingly, and from there on out, just never really dropped the ball.
Yeah, and that's the problem with going for that kind of 9-pull move, is you've got to do enough damage at the start to justify the economic... You slow your economy down as a result of doing that, and if you don't deal enough economic damage to your opponent, then the damage is really done to you instead. And that great surge there by Stephano, I wasn't entirely convinced by the Banelings in the middle of the map, and one indeed did get picked off, but he was able to morph in 4 more around this area here, out of sight, and then he brings them in and gets good hits and wipes out that Spinecrawler nice and quickly, and then gets the surround on the 2 queens, which is what finished Life off, really. There's not a lot he could do from that position. Life had no queens left, and Stephano had 2, and that's a blindingly obvious advantage in and of itself.
Yeah, and Stephano sets himself up really nicely now. He's won his first game against Mana. He's now winning against Live. And the next map is going to be on Daybreak, which Stephano's very comfortable on in every single matchup. It doesn't really affect too much with Zerg versus Zerg, so it's very balanced, of course. But we'll see. Will Stephano just go ahead and be like, all right, man, I just never lose on this map. Doesn't matter what matchup it is. And closes up 2-0. So we'll have to find out.
It would be so good if he did, man. It would set him up really well, because then, as we said, to guarantee his placement in the round of 8, he just has to beat Jjakji or MMA. I say just has to beat them, but even then, even if he loses to both, if he gets this 2-0, in addition to the 2-0 that he got against Mana, that's going to set him up nicely for map score as well. Yeah,
absolutely. So, all Stephano fans, all Foreigner robotic fans here that are cheering for, of course, the Foreigner, you should get crazy now, because he has to win this, and if he does, that's it. Stephano can be like, all right, just one, like you said, 1 game against Terran, just win 1 Terran opponent, and I'm through.
Oh, yes. So let's find out if he can go through 2-0, folks, after this short commercial break. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this series between Millennium Stephano. He is in the pink trunks playing Zerg to the southwest of GSL Daybreak, versus his opponent who is currently down 1 game in this best of 3 series. It is Zenix Life in the red trunks playing Zerg to the northeast.
And on Daybreak here, it will be, well, should be a more passive map now, and I don't think Live's going to gamble like he did at the start of the first game there on Cloud Kingdom to go for an early spawning pool. And the reason why, of course, this is a more passive map within this matchup here is because the distances, I don't even know who Marine Jack is. Some French guy. I don't know what he's saying.
Je ne comprends pas le Marine Jack.
And then he's like, oh, sorry.
Yes.
I guess he doesn't know the French word for sorry. But yeah, back on track here is the on Daybreak, it's a very long walking distance between bases. Therefore, if you did go for an early spawning pool, it's a big risk, because you're hoping your opponent doesn't go for anything other than a very late hatchery and a late spawning pool.
Yeah, absolutely. And Doesn't look like either of these guys are going to go for anything crazy, one way or the other. It's a bit of a dash. I like the fact that Stephano's drone scanning again. That's pretty smart. Even though he's not necessarily going to spot anything, he may be able to slow down a hatch first. He may force a spawning pool before hatchery, one way or the other. We'll find out very, very shortly. It would be very late for a spawning pool now with 15, so this is pretty much going to be a hatchery first. But now Stephano's like, ha! Well, you see, I drone scouted, so I can just be an absolute pain in the arse right about now.
Yeah, and that's the top side. I mean, like we said in the previous game, you either get an early scout of an early pull, or you do this. And 2 drones haven't come down. Of course, it's not like a probe. There's no pylon can go down. So eventually the drone will go down, and you can see it now plants the hatchery. But that was delayed quite a bit. If you compare it now in the production tab, there's a good 10 seconds difference there, which at this level of gameplay is of course huge.
Yes, it is. That is a good difference, and that scout was absolutely worthwhile. And it's going to get away as well, and there's no way that that's going to get caught in a million years. Spawning pool kicks off for both of these guys, Life with a slight edge in that respect. Not that that's going to make too much of a difference, but Stephano already has a slight economic lead as a result of this earlier hatch.
Yeah, very, very slight, but any advantage is an advantage worth taking. And Stephano and Live are using the most economic focus, greedily build possible here, where they do go for the extractor first before spawning pool, so they can get speed out straight away. And of course, if you don't do that, your opponent's going to have complete map control over you. He's going to be able to control the flow of the game, whether he's the aggressor or whether he's expanding behind it, and you don't really know what exactly is going on. And not only that, from taking map control away, is that Zergling speed is basically the only way you can really scout in this matchup, to scout the drone count, to go into the main base potentially if there's a hole, and to kind of see what you're up against. Therefore, you know whether to drone, whether to upgrade, whether to tech, and so on and so on.
Yeah, we've got 2 queens coming up for both, and Life with just a slight edge in that respect. He started his 2 queens a little bit before his opponent, but they've both got Zergling speed coming up at pretty much the same time. There are no windows for aggression here, with a timing where speed is done for one and not done for the other. So, passive for the moment, just feeling each other out, trying to figure out what exactly their opponent is going for.
And very smartly, we see 2 lings come out from Live, but the very smart thing is from Stephano, who doesn't build lings. Why do you need lings? You know what your opponent's build is. You don't need that. That's another drone that Stephano now is going to have.
Get that lead.
And he was already a drone ahead because of the earlier hatchery and the later spawning pool, so he's actually in a really good position here.
Yeah, curiously though, Stephano's now actually building 6 lings in response to these 2 that he saw coming across the map. They did pass an overlord. In fact, he's actually building 12. So he's going to be cranking things up quite shortly. There is a baneling nest on the way up here from Life, and we could see the same kind of thing end up happening to Stephano that happened to Life in the previous game, whereby the earlier baneling nest means that the aggression is cut short and a counterattack is viable.
Yeah, and there is a defensive spine crawler. Well, I guess you can only have a defensive spine crawler. It's a little bit silly to say that. Spine crawler is now down for Live.
Passive-aggressive spine crawler.
Passive-aggressive spine crawler.
Posts on Facebook. It's like, get out the base.
And we also do have 2 banelings being morphed as well by Live. So he's actually fine to defend against this aggression, which Stephano's opted to go for, of course, by building all these lings. So he actually should be fine on holding this.
Yeah, unless he screws up. Oh, nice start. He's not screwing up anything. And Stephano's like, nope, I'm just not going to go for that one. And why would he? The natural transition out of this is to get your Roach Warren down so that you can negate the effect of the banelings. I'd be very surprised if Stephano goes in again. He already just took a big hit there, and Life isn't messing around. He's got 5 banelings and a spine crawler, a second spine crawler coming up. There's no way Stephano can get in here.
Yeah, this is really, really difficult, and because Stephano spent all this money on the lings, there was actually an 8 drone lead there for Live, and now it's a little bit more equal as he's droning up behind it too, but he's actually very comfortable to hold this, and Live hasn't really shown. I mean, he's got a lot of gas banked up. I think he's going to tech layer very shortly. Stephano, on the other hand, is just building roaches, and Stephano could go for roachling timing against any layer kind of strategies, and we actually see that coming down as the gas has now been deployed also.
Yeah, 3 gas coming up for Life here. The lair is on the way, as you mentioned. And now we've got Stephano rolling out. This is going to be seen very, very early here by Life. And in fact, that was an attempted run by counterattack, which might get surrounded here and torn to shreds by Stephano. Good damage being done there. Catches several lings out, and these roaches will now slowly make their way across the map. Baneling Nest to back it up here for Stephano as well. A lot more lings coming in. But, as you said, there is this nasty timing where Life is trying to tech, and he's now got to deal with roaches, and he doesn't really have what he needs to do that.
Yeah, he's actually adding on 2 more spine crawlers, 4 spine crawlers. He's going to probably have to pull his queen down from his main 2, and he's building or morphing a lot more banelings. Stephano has got a baneling nest finishing up in just a few seconds here, so he's going to be going with his roach baneling ling attack. But remember, if Stephano doesn't do damage here, he's set himself so far back in terms of tech and economy, and of course Live's going to take a big advantage going into the next game, or the next stage of this game, as we see the Spire coming down as well. All he has to do is hold on versus this aggression.
Yeah, exactly. If that Spire completes, then Stephano's got a world of hurt coming his way, and he's not going to be prepared to properly deal with that. But this is going to be a tough sell one way or the other. He's going to have to get in here and do some significant damage. A lot of banelings coming in. He's also got to make sure the banelings go off on the roaches, and there's a baneling cancellation on both sides, and a good detonation goes off. But Stephano holds that quite nicely, and now, having brought the links back, is able to swarm over. More banelings go down on both sides here. The roach count is about to plummet into nothingness. Life has 2 banelings morphing up to the top here. 32 more links coming in from Stephano, but he hasn't managed to smash his way through the natural.
Oh man, Stephano's in a big bad place now.
Oh, yes.
37 drones versus 31. Of course, that aggression didn't work. Now, Stephano doesn't have lair. He knows what's going on. He saw the gases had been taken, so without even seeing the Spire in the lair, he knows his opponent's teching up for a Spire. So we actually see double queens coming out, and he's going to have to defend with only queens, as that's all he can have.
Yeah, this is horrible right here for Stephano. It really is. We've got 5 Mutalisks now on the way, and Stephano has no decent way to deal with it. He's going to drone hard, and then, of course, get his Evolution Chamber up. That's a nice splash there. Life gets a good hit on those lings, and Stephano just trying to do economic damage here. Getting a run by, maybe get into, then do some damage, takes out a Spine Crawler, and just try and slow the economy of Life down. But really, this is not going to do a huge amount. I mean, that was already cleaned up. A couple of drones go down here and there. Actually, not a single drone died in that, if you can believe it.
Wow, this is so good for Live. I mean, he can double expand behind this actually if he wanted to. He's gonna have complete map control. Overlords are gonna go down in a plenty here as the Mulists are just going crazy. +1 attack is coming out, missile attacks, which will of course help the queens a little bit here too, and not just the roaches and eventually hydras if they even come out here. Still 2x2 queens coming out, and Stephano really delaying his lair because he has to get anti-air out.
Yeah, that's the awkward, nasty thing, isn't it, in this situation? It's like, well, do I build lairs? Like, oh, I can't. You know, I've got to be able to build queens. I can't build a queen from a hatchery that's building lair tech, not to mention the investment. So he is managing to throw this back quite... What is Life doing? He just threw a Mutalisk away there. I'm not really sure what his plan was.
Yeah, he's got to be careful. I mean, queens are actually very good anti-air, especially because they have the transfuse as well. They take a lot of damage. We do see a tech out of this, though. We do see double Evolution Chamber down with double upgrades coming for Live and a Roach 1 coming down. So he's just establishing a map control and an economic advantage via the Mutalisks, and it doesn't intend to stay on this.
Yeah, a couple of banelings coming down for the defense here. Manages to keep all of those queens alive in the process. Another transfuse comes on, and none of those queens die, and he smashes his way through that Mutalisk count. Stephano's holding this incredibly well here. Life does still have... Well, actually, no, he's lost his economic advantage in the process. Stephano just droned really hard behind this.
Yeah, I mean, Stephano has 58 drones compared to 51, but as soon as Live starts mining from this third base, that's when, of course, the saturation gets spread better for him. He'll have a better income because of that. Because, of course, you can only mine from X amount of drones, which is 25 per base. We do have double upgrades coming. Infestation pit down really early here, so Live is just, as long as he, slows down Stephano's third base, his is already up. He's taking gas from it. He's going to go to 2-2 upgrade shortly with his roaches. The infestors are going to be out, which Stephano is in no shape or form to get out anywhere soon because he has to build units and upgrades himself.
Yeah, that's true, and I would just like to see Stephano actually starting to really get the harassment, get the Ling run-bys going on, which is something Life's already doing here to try and deny this hatchery, and he will be able to force cancel, which is disastrous there for Stephano, and a nice move for Life. In the meantime, Life is just mining without a care in the world over here, and these Mutalisks by Life are also proving to be an absolute nightmare for Stephano to deal with.
Oh, yeah, that was a brilliant cancellation there on that hatchery. I mean, Live, that was an awesome move. But he is just building units. He's not actually at a full 3-base saturation because he's scared of Stephano just going all in here, having lost that third hatchery again. So He's just preparing for Stephano to launch himself at him. He is getting a little bit more comfortable when he starts building drones. He'll probably build a queen for that third hatchery as well in a few seconds' time. But within the infestation pit down, the pathogen gland's about to finish, and infestors on the way, he's in no shape to really even, lose this game. It'd be very difficult for him to lose this game, and he'd have to make colossal mistake after mistake.
Yeah, and Stephano's going to be able to take advantage of every single last one of them. And yes, he's done damage to the Mutalisks, but really, what did that actually achieve? The Mutas were still able to take map control, get rid of all of those scouting overlords. Queen's now coming down to try and stop that hatchery from going down, which they're able to do. Muta's moving around just to deal little bits of damage here and there and delay this push from Stephano until Infestors come out for life, at which point things start to get really hard for Stephano. What's he got to deal with Infestors?
Absolutely nothing. So any clumped up roaches, it's almost just going to get wiped out. I mean, Stephano does have a little bit of an upgrade advantage, but to be honest, against Infestors, it of course doesn't matter. And even though basically the roaches are just going to die so incredibly fast, they don't get the opportunity to use that upgrade advantage here. And in an aggressive or defensive stance. So if Stephano pushes out, he's clumped up, he takes a fungal growth. If he's in defensive, he's clumped up, he takes a fungal growth. So this is going to be very, very difficult for Stephano to do anything here.
Yeah, the one thing that he's got, and the thing is he's going in earlier than that, and now he obviously knows the Infestors, and then he's probably not happy about that one little bit, is the fact that soon he'll have Tunneling Claws. And while he can't burrow while he's fungled, a fraction of a second is all he needs to be able to burrow, and he'll get some rapid regeneration as a result of having that, and may even be able to reposition his forces. The problem is he engaged before that, not knowing that Infestors were up, and as a result, he's now taking a pounding.
Yeah, and now he's trying to harass on two fronts, but Alive is equal to the task, who defends on both fronts as well here. Stephano does manage to get into the main base. He wants to snipe the Queen, potentially drones here, and this is pretty nice.
Yeah, he's got Tunneling Claws now available as well, and there is no method of detection in the base, so these can actually stick around for quite some time. Now Stephano going for the third, which is defended quite heavily here by Infestors. It says Stephano needs to kind of use his burrow advantage here and actually tunnel under and snipe some Infestors off. Hasn't done so just yet, and you can't burrow while you're being fungal growth. That's the real problem. There's these burrowed roaches up to the top here, some damage being done to the economy, and more to the point, it's keeping life in his base.
Yeah, it is, and he's wasting energy as well, so Stephano's trying to drain him down, but with Mulus in there as well, doing added splash damage to these roaches, this is still very difficult for Stephano, because now he's like, oh, no, deal with my counterattack. Stephano screaming at his monitor, come back and defend, because I'm in no shape to actually defend myself.
Exactly. He's been buying time. That's all he's been doing because life hit 200. Stephano's army is tiny in comparison. We've got spine crawlers going off and the Mutalisks are already preventing those from going up, and there's really no way Stephano can defend this third now.
Yeah, and he's going to have an upgrade advantage, but look at the clumped up roaches there. Oh my god, they're going to take some big fungals.
Yeah, I would think so. There's a fungal in the center here, and life has just got so many roaches. The upgrade advantage just doesn't make a difference here, and no, he's not going to hold that. It's not going to happen. The third is now going to go down, and life can just prosecute this advantage all the way into the natural and end this game. Stephano in a horrible spot.
Yeah, Stephano on the back foot now. Unfortunately, he's not going to get that 2-0 win here. As you can see live streaming forward. There's Queens left to defend.
There's the GG right there. Congrats, says Stephano, as he always does against a player that is obviously outplayed him, and he really, really did. So you can look all the way back to the start of that game and try and figure out, well, what actually went wrong for Stephano.
Well, I guess the biggest part of the game, really, the changing point of this game is when Stephano decided that I'm going to break him before he gets lair. Because that's, on the European server, that's what happens. If somebody tries to go for a fast lair, you just get knocked down. It doesn't matter what you have to defend. Usually, you can break through there. But in this game, that didn't happen there. And Alive managed to actually survive. And from here on out, he just had an advantage where he got the Mulus out, map control, took a third base, and just continued from here on out. And Stephano, in the mid stages, because of that early game, risk that he took, could never actually come back.
No, he couldn't. And it was only a matter of time. If Life had been a less able player, then perhaps Life would have just stayed in the base dealing with these annoying attacks from Stephano as Stephano rebuilt his economy. As it stands, that is not what happened at all, and we saw Life just say, well, you know what, I don't care, you're killing drones, big deal, I've got an army that's 3 times the size of yours, and I have Infestors, I'm just going to go for you.
Yeah, and he cleaned up that win, which is excellent for him in this tournament because he needs this win. And, of course, as much as Stephano wants to win, he doesn't need this. On the other hand, Live does. So Live going into the final game here has nothing but a win in his mind.
Yeah, and as you said, he doesn't need it because he's already dropped a game. But this would also mean that Stephano would drop a game in a matchup where he confesses himself that it's his weakest matchup. But I would think that he would consider a win against Life to be an easier take than a win against Jjakji or MMA.
Absolutely. They're two fantastic players, Codes champions, and, Live is struggling to even get into the GSL. So they're just a different tier of play. So even though Stephano isn't playing in his best matchup now, he still is aiming to beat Live down, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll see whether or not he can actually pull that off, or whether Life will get himself on the board with a nice win against the Foreigner Hope. We'll find out after this break. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final game of this best-of-3 series between Xenix and Life. He is in the orange trunks, and he is playing Zerg to the east of the Antigua shipyard. Versus his opponent, it is Millennium Stephano in the pink trunks, playing Zerg to the west.
And on Antigua Shipyard, we may see Life be a little bit more aggressive here. I mean, this is pretty much an open, natural area where aggression can get rewarded here, as it's very hard for a defensive player to pull off good defense. Because of the big wide area, Lings can easily run by, Banelings have multiple areas they can come from too. Will Stephano, Stephano, that's the thing with Stephano, is that he can play any style, aggressive or passive, just at the same level. So he can actually play suited towards the map. And, even though if Life actually has a pretty good record in Zerg versus Zerg, but will he have enough of a good record to actually overcome Stephano, who, despite being his worst matchup, is still one of the best Zerg versus Zergs in Europe?
Yes, without question, and he is the only one that really claims that it's his worst matchup. We've seen him, we saw his performance. It was, of course, a while ago now, but he 4-0s Lucky, who is a Codes caliber player. You don't mess around with Lucky. Stephano's actually gone for a 12 pool here, which is an interesting start.
I think it was 11 actually.
Really?
He just built a drone just after it. Yeah, so
yeah, okay.
It's going to be like this 11 pool, which is usually a sign of aggression, of course, because he's going to take the gas too. And this is actually one of his trademark builds here, which Stephano started his Zerg versus Zerg career off. I remember it exactly in Assembly Summer, I think, or Winter last year, whichever one it was, where Stephano had one of his breakout performances before winning IPL 3 and so on. And what it means, of course, that he can, against Amaga, that's right. And he's going to be getting very early speed, of course, but at the same time, this does work well, but Live does have a good build against it, and that's Zerg versus Zerg for you. It is a bit of a roll dice sometimes in terms of early build orders, because Live has a more economic focus, but not too economic focused build, where Stephano can punish this. As of course, because the gas count's relatively close here, they're going to have speed around the same time here as well.
Yeah, so Stephano asks, it's cross only? It's like, that sounds suspicious. He is hoping that Life doesn't understand that, but, well, he hasn't responded as of yet. But whatever the case, Stephano with 2 Lings now on the way out. Interestingly enough, starts with 2 and then builds another 4 on top of that, but Life builds 6 of his own, which will, of course, be ready by the time that this gets here.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Stephano, I mean, he had the early pool. That means he sacrificed a few drones, 2 drones to be precise, to get this here. And Live already has units out, so this is pushed back incredibly easy here. Stephano now has a couple of options. Whether he throw down the Bailey Nest and just go for it, or does he actually try to, salvage this game and try to play more passive and get his own natural up?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would think, well, we're seeing actually 10 more Lings coming up, so he may decide just to continue to push in with this aggression here. He doesn't really even have a lead in terms of speed either. I imagine he would have been hoping that his opponent would have skipped the gas, but he didn't. And both of them now going Baneling Nest, so we're going to see this Ling-Baneling war scenario that we see so often in ZvZ early.
Yeah, but there's 300 minerals in units now compared to 300 of Life, who is, of course, on that natural expansion. So Stephano's going to have more units. That naturally puts Life in a defensive stance, who actually doesn't even know if Stephano's expanded or not behind this. He doesn't know if this is going to be a big amount of aggression or not.
He's going to find out.
Oh, no,
shut down. So nicely done there by Stephano. So close to getting up that ramp. But now Stephano has speed, as does his opponent, and neither of them really know Is there a Baneling nest? But Stephano does know there's an expansion here.
Yeah, and Stephano may not actually he could just kill the Oh my god, it actually completes. If he kills the hatchery, Stephano may actually be content with going home with just this victory.
Yeah, and he can kill it. There's no real question about it. I think he's got it, and there it goes. Wow, that's a great start there for Stephano. It's like, okay, just leave now, I guess. But a nice interception there by Life. He wants every single one of those lings dead as a result, and well, Stephano's going to have to prepare for a counterattack here, I think, but he's got 5 Banelings on the way to do just that.
I wonder if these Banelings, actually, he may defend with Banelings in his main base, and these 5 Banelings are going to go for Live's main base here,
They're going to get
run
spotted
around the back.
Well, actually, Life hasn't responded to them yet, and he needs to respond much faster than that. They passed an Overlord. Life, I think, focused on his counterattack here. Now, finally, he's working on them, but, well, there's a Queen block, so I guess that's really not going to make that much of a difference.
Yeah, the Queen block there just pushes that away, and now Stephano has to focus on defending himself. Life is going to expand behind this here, and actually gets... Wait a minute. That was huge! A Baneling, oh my, I really do believe that there was a Baneling right next to that hatchery as it immediately landed down and just exploded upon the hatchery going down.
Really?
And it wasted 300 minerals.
Wow. We will have to have a look at that once this game completes. We're actually going to have a look at that in the replay because that was not something that we actually spotted there, but we can see it afterwards. If that actually was the case, then that is absolutely massive in this game. Life are looking to try and get in now, but Stephano's definitely got the defense he requires. And, well, it's Ling Baneling comes down to control. Stephano has a smaller army. He's actually supply blocked at the moment as well. And Life with a much larger supply count, but the drone count's fairly equal. And trying to neutralize Banelings here on both sides.
Yeah, this is pretty intense right now for Stephano, of course. Either player can pull off a win here. Who's going to do it? Oh no, there's no Banelings left now for Life, so he has to be so careful. One is being morphed on the natural area here, but it won't be able to do any damage into the main base. It has to come to fight the Lings. Yeah,
nice split off there by Life, and again, actually loses 3 Lings there, but still a reasonable trade in that 1 Ling. Baneling actually is going to end up going down as well, so that's a nice bit of defensive work here from Life, who neutralizes the Banelings in the center.
Oh, this is really good for Life now. He has units coming out. Stephano still can't drone. He could actually lose the hatchery on his natural. He's trying to build 10 Lings to come out here to defend it, but there's not enough time.
No, there isn't, and the Lings now come into intercept right here. Hatchery is falling below 100, and this is going to force a cancel, and Stephano did not want that one little bit. He gets the defense then, will be able to re-establish behind that, but it's time. It's all about time, because Life's hatchery just finished.
Yeah, it has just finished. A roach one's coming down too, as well as the second gas, so he's immediately going to build a big amount of roaches here to defend against any form of aggression Stephano can go for. Stephano building 4 Lings, 4 drones, so a bit of both at the moment, but will he ramp up the Ling production shortly? Because Life is in an amazing position in this game, even though he lost that hatchery twice earlier on.
Yeah, it's astonishing that he's managed to actually pull that off, but he has, and that's the caliber of player you're actually seeing there in the form of Xenix Life. Even splits off a Ling right there to get some scouting information, which it will get. It's even got to see a Baneling count and all sorts of really useful information there. Life's in a great spot, and he's droning as well, hard. He is on 32 drones versus 21. Things are looking grim here for Stephano, but he's not out of it yet.
No, he's not. Stephano can still play greedy. This is this matchup all over. I mean, if you play greedy and if your opponent doesn't punish you, you can still easily come back into this. And that's what Stephano has to aim for here, is just drone heavily, hope his opponent is overly defensive, builds additional spines and roaches and just doesn't attack or anything. And that's what Stephano has to bank for.
Yeah, Life's actually going lair, though, so that's the crazy thing about that. We've got a little engagement once again on the natural, which is defended nicely there by Stephano. Life is continually sending in single Lings to actually gain scouting information, and would probably want to know whether his opponent is getting greedy, because at that point, Life can decide, right, well, we're going to turn the pressure on, but he is in cross position with slow roaches, so the question is, what can he pressure with? Not an awful lot, so we can perhaps just expect him to wait for Muta here.
We'll see. I don't think he's going to use Mutalist in this game. He's already invested in +1 missile attacks here, and he will be going roach speed and probably +2 straight away. He did try to send an Overlord into Stephano's base, but it did get shot down by additional Queens, which is why the only form of harassment, oh, I mean not even harassment, scouting, is by Ling speed, which he's trying to do now on the natural of Stephano.
Yeah, but he manages to take out a drone there, looking to do a little bit more damage. And wow, the Baneling actually goes off against a single Link. That's not good at all. And a couple more drones being picked off here by that nice little run by... Life is just gaining advantages everywhere here. And even now, with Stephano going uber greedy, building a round of 11 drones, he's still only going to be able to catch up to his opponent there.
Yeah, and what Live scouted there was that there was no layer, there's no mid-game tech, there's no roach speed or anything. And he knows now that Stephano is just on low tech, which means his upgrades are going to be low, there's no roach speed, he's only on Ling, a few roaches and banelings. So he now knows that, alright, well, I can just go kill Stephano. As of course Stephano has been a little bit too greedy here, and he's never ever ever going to let Stephano take an easy third base.
No, and with the massive supply and army size advantage that Life actually has here, and really sort of starting to pile on the pressure and about to get roach speed as well, this is going to be very, very difficult for Stephano to actually hold off. Only a single spine crawl at the front will be nowhere near enough. There's a couple of banelings there to prevent any kind of links around, but it's just going to be roach on roach, which Life has an edge in terms of his +1 advantage there, and is about to get speed as well, which will give him micro capability. But at the moment, Stephano is trying to fight and hold as best he can, but he's being completely overwhelmed here. Life's got way more roaches available, and the drone's now being pulled off the natural, taking some damage on the way back, and I don't think Stephano's got a shot holding this now.
No, he hasn't. I mean, there's one roach, two roaches now versus 20, 30 roaches, so even though the upgrade advantage is nullified, Stephano doesn't have the numbers.
No, he does not, and Life is just going to crush through here. Even, he's got speed as well, which makes it even easier to actually micro. Transfuse goes off on that roach, but there's the GG, and Life puts himself on the board, with Stephano taking a disappointing loss there.
Yeah, that's really, really sad for Stephano, unfortunately, but that he's still at 1-1, as you said, it's still not over. He can still win his next two games and continue through here, but that's looking really, really good for Life there, who needed that win for sure. And if you want to have a look at that actually specific point in the game where those banelings actually detonated, I think it was around the 6-minute mark or just after it.
Well, let's have a look, shall we?
It's at exactly 6:50. So you can actually see at this point there was 3 banelings left. So it wasn't just one. I only heard the noise, so I could only presume. But what happened is 3 banelings who were sitting next to the hatchery as that got morphed, and then just immediately shut it down, and that was an immediate loss of 300 minerals.
Yep, I'm just getting there right now. Alright, so there we go. There's the 3 banelings, and there goes the hatchery, and bang! Yeah, that was a nice little bit of execution there by Stephano. Against a lesser player, that might have won the game right there, but nope. Life absolutely is not going to allow that to happen, was able to apply the pressure. He played incredibly well in this matchup, he really did. I'm actually impressed by Life, very much so, in this group. He's been doing well, he played well against MMA as well. That was not a walkover by MMA, he had to fight hard for that victory. So we may see another breakout Zerg success in this tournament from Life.
Yeah, he actually outplayed Stephano in the mid stages because after that hatchery got blown up, Stephano's at quite a significant advantage as he has 200 minerals in the bank, he can easily expand himself shortly, and actually has more in units and banelings. So he can actually drone behind this. But he did, lose banelings to single lings so often, and Life's control was, extraordinary, where it pushed him, even though losing 2 hatcheries in this game, 600 minerals there were lost, and it only at the 6-minute 50 mark, which is incredible, and he was just more efficient with units, and manages to scrape the win there, which is a fantastic result for him.
Yeah, really nice start there for Life, and it puts him back in the tournament. And at the end of the day, his first matchup was probably the toughest matchup he was going to have in this group. It was against MMA. He accounted well for himself, even though he lost, he took a map. Now he takes a win against Stephano, who was very much a credible threat. And then his remaining games are going to be up against Jjakji, who many people will say is not up to the standard of MMA, and Mana, whose weakest matchup is against Zerg.
Yeah, and we will be seeing Life play against Jjakji later on today. So before we do go into that, we are going to have MMA versus Mana, but we will be able to follow on with Life. Whether he'll be able to beat Jjakji or not, we'll have to find out not so long away.
Yes, indeed. And if he can beat Jjakji, then he will be in a stellar position to continue to push forward. And we may very much see a Zerg-dominated tournament there. We've already got a single Zerg player through from Group B. We've got 2 Terran players, of course, through from Group A. There's a Protoss in Group B. But then having a Zerg player through from Group C, well, there's also a possibility, in fact, it's quite likely that we may see 2 Zerg advance from Group D, because that is the axis of evil right then. You've got Lenok, you've got Nurchio, and you've got Nesty in that group.
Yeah, it's very likely over there, but of course you can't count out Alive. But
of course not.
We'll see. But this is going to be an interesting second game now. MMA going up against Mana, one of the best Protoss versus Terrans there is in Europe, versus an all-round superstar. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, if Mana can pull this upset off, then that's going to put him in a great position going forward. And, of course, the foreign fans will be very happy to see that. But it's going to be difficult. Can he manage it? We'll find out very shortly. Don't go anywhere.